Hello again. Welcome to our show, How Was Your Day podcast. I'm your boy Drew, always joined by the two homies, GQ Nesto. How you doing today?
Doing good.
Smith, CEO. How you doing today?
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed.
All right. Hey man, real quick. Well, it's not real quick because it's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Did any of you guys get a chance? I know we have an upcoming presidential debate coming up, I believe Thursday of this week or next week. Did any of you guys watch the presidential debate or the town hall?
I kind of glanced through it. It was kind of interesting, to say the least.
What about you?
I started out watching it, and then as the circus went on, I kind of just let it play in the background as I was doing other things. Just kind of listened in a little bit, I guess you could say.
It was kind of cringy. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, I don't know if I want to watch this.
Well, I mean, of course, the topic of discussion during the debate was COVID-19 and what was President Trump's response going to be, or why it hasn't been effective, and what plan do you have? What have you done? And then of course, they talked about Obamacare, and healthcare and stuff like that. But it got like personal, and prior to the debate, from what I researched, it said that Vice President Biden had an 8-point lead over Trump, right? And after the debate, Trump had lost even more support. So I began to think about, I just put like random scenarios in my head, and I can just see his cabinet members, approaching him like, sir, we want to help you prepare for the debate. Do you have anything available anytime? And I can see him like on Twitter on his phone, like, nah, I'm good. And they're getting flustered. They're like, oh, like, sir, but you're about to go on national television. Like, don't you want some information? Don't, let us prep you because you represent us. You know what I'm saying? Not only the Republican Party, but you represent us because we're your team. And he's just like, nah, I'm just going to wing it. And they're like, oh, well, you sure? Yeah, I'm going to wing it. And if it don't work out, then I'm going to talk about the son. I'm going to say that his son was a cokehead. And that always works. That always gets
he's like that kid, like your mom.
Right.
I know you are, but what am I?
Yeah.
But like, honestly, and this is not about, hey, you should be a Republican or a Democrat show. But I wasn't impressed by either one of them, and what they had to say or what they were bringing to the table, because it wasn't really a debate. It was just like, a slander contest. But I just wanted you guys' take on, do you feel like that is the platform to air out your opponent's dirty laundry during a debate?
I think it was kind of messed up, but I think right now, the way everything is, you got to do what you got to do to win. I think it's a strategy that either party would probably use. But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of messed up. I mean, especially when it comes to, certain conditions in that aspect. Like, obviously, even drug addiction or whatever he was saying about his son. I mean, I think that's a condition. You can't just, take that out of the equation. So I thought it was pretty messed up on that.
What about you, Smith?
Definitely not the platform I would use to air out somebody's dirty laundry. I mean, you guys are both in the running, or not you guys, but they're both in the running for the president of the greatest nation in the world. And that's just not the platform you want to do that on, in my opinion.
Okay.
I wouldn't have done it.
And then one other thing stood out, right? So, of course, if I'm with Vice President Biden's party, I would say, yo, you really need to focus on what was his response for this COVID. Look at how many deaths we have as a result. So, of course, somebody has to take the fall. Him being the president of the United States, you blame Trump, right? That was Biden's position. And they began to argue. Like, President Trump was like, if you were president, it would be more. Like, more what? Biden was like, you lost over 200,000 people. And then Trump was like, well, during H1N1, you lost 14,000. Then he was just like, I'm thinking to myself, are we really arguing about thousands of people dying right now? And like, you know, and it made
Like
me
who caught more bodies? Like it's a
Yeah.
thing. Like
like you running
Like
the
it's a
streets
competition.
now. Right? And I'm like, man, and I just began to think that these are the two gentlemen that represent us, and they don't look like me, they don't talk like me, and I'm just like, am I just a number to them? Like, do you really care about my? You just care about my
it's
vote,
all the numbers game,
right?
man.
And it just felt like so impersonal. Like I couldn't connect. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I just couldn't connect. And then it became an argument about who was from the suburbs. And Trump was like, he ain't from the suburbs. And Biden was like, you ain't from the suburbs. I'm from the suburbs. Like, when has the suburbs ever been like the inner city
Right.
hood?
The new 8 Mile.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Almost
how
like,
does-
yeah, like when you catch two people in school arguing about I'm from the hood, no, I'm from this. Or if you from that hood, then do you know so such and such and such and such? And they're like, no, I don't know. Then you ain't really from the hood. You know what I mean? That's what it reminded me of, man. Like just a bunch of nonsense arguing.
Like, I'm
You know
from
what
a
I mean?
gated
And then-
community. Where's yours? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
It was just a little off to me. But so the consensus after the conclusion of the debate was, you know, of course I said that President Trump lost even more support, right? So now he returns back to the White House, and I'm just creating this scenario in my head. I don't know if this actually happened, probably didn't. But he goes back into the White House, and you can just see like his whole team just sour faced. Like, see what happens when you don't prepare, and somebody says, "Hey, well, what are we gonna do?" And then you can imagine an intern being in a corner of the room, and he raises his little hand, and they acknowledge him. Yes, what do you got? Sir, I got a plan. Maybe something you can do. What? What is it? You can say you got COVID. You mean the thing that I told everybody not to worry about?
The thing that ain't real.
Yeah, sir, you can say it. And not only you can get the first lady involved. Just think about it. It'll be amazing. What's my numbers looking like? Not good. Your numbers are not looking good, sir. All right, let's do it. But it brings me to the question that I want to ask you guys. Do you feel that, okay, because we don't know whether he had it or not, but do you think it's a marketing, like presidential election strategy going on here with him saying that he and his wife had COVID?
No, it's funny you say that because the second I heard it, I was at work, right? And the first thing I told my coworker was like, yo, this got to be a marketing scheme. Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind as soon as I heard the news. I mean, think about it. Trump is a marketing genius, bro. Like, and if he didn't have it, it worked. You know what I mean? Played into his favor. And if he really did have COVID and he beat it that quick, then my God, he's like the ultimate guy. You know what I mean? Like, he beat COVID in 3 days. Like, that's unheard of. You know what I mean?
That's
So
like, you
it's
know what I'm saying? That's the guy you want to vote for.
Yeah, that's
you want
like,
that guy
I
on
want
your
that
team.
guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, interesting point though. That's the first thing I thought of. Like, it's got to be a marketing scheme. And if it worked, hey, he a genius for that.
What about you, GQ? What you think?
I got two ideas. I think like either A, the party was like, you know what? Let's get him off the stage. He's like, he's gonna drown us. You know, he's gonna make us look really bad. Or once again, you know, I would have to agree with you guys as far as the marketing, you know, just a tactic to trying to generate some sort of empathy from, you know, from the voters, from all of us, you know. So, but regardless, I think that he's not a real politician. You know what I mean? So you can't really judge him off of this move necessarily, because I feel that he's just obviously a billionaire, you know, trying to do his, you know, he's trying to do his thing, you know, and I don't think we could really judge him as a political move, because I don't think he's a politician, you know.
Well, that's the thing. He's not a politician. What people forget about Trump too is like he's a New Yorker, so he's just raw by nature. You know, I mean, New Yorkers are raw by nature. They're just gonna give it to you straight, and a lot of people can't handle that.
No filter.
You know what I mean, like we talked about that in the previous episode. Like people nowadays are just not that they're soft, but a lot of people are sensitive. They don't like to hear the truth. You know, they want everything sugarcoated, and Trump's not the guy. He's a New Yorker. Like they're not gonna sugarcoat anything, bro. They're just gonna give it to you straight and give it to you raw. And I just think a lot of people can't handle that.
I mean, at some point we got to stop thinking like rainbows and lollipops. You know, at some point we got to understand that we face what we face. I mean, it is what it is. Let's keep it going.
Kind of like it's a business.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause
yeah.
technically it's what it is. I mean, you know, You got to run it like a business.
Okay, so what I noticed is I tried to bounce back and forth between news channels. So I was watching a little bit of Fox, a little bit of NBC. And,
Fake news.
Right, yeah. But I was just like, I noticed the difference in the attitude and the energy that was given towards him testing positive. So when I was watching Fox, it was like, oh, poor president. I hope he and the first lady, oh, they just got to pull through. Right?
Like that 2 a.m. commercial,
right,
huh?
Right, like, yeah, like save these children's $1 a day. It's all it takes, you know? And then I turn it to NBC and it's just like, oh, they lying. Like, he ain't got no COVID.
He ain't got COVID.
You know? So it was almost like when you watching that movie and the hero is about to kill the villain, but before he pulls the trigger, the villain is like, no, wait. I just got to get something off my chest. And it was like, what is it? I'm only this way because my dad didn't give me Cheerios. Like, what? Your dad didn't sit down and eat some breakfast with you? Yes. So you begin to sympathize. Like, man, you know what? My dad didn't eat cereal with me either, man. I can kind of relate to that. So I seen it as him having COVID is something that the population can relate to, which gives him an advantage. Do you guys understand? Like, what do you think about that? Do you think he gets an advantage for having that, for staying, like coming out? Because that's a bold move. I mean, of course, we're not saying that he's faking it. All right, let's just put that out there. We're not saying that. But if it was the case, does that create an advantage over Biden by saying like, yo, like he's COVID strong, you know, COVID proof?
All right. I mean, the sad reality of this whole thing is we'll honestly never know the truth. You know what I mean? Because you got one media outlet saying one thing, you got another news media outlet saying another thing. And that's kind of what most people rely on for their information. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of jacked up reality. We're never hardcore really going to know the truth. I mean, if he did have COVID, you know what I mean, and he beat it that quick, like, more power to him. If he didn't have it and he used it as just a marketing scheme, it's messed up and smart at the same time. You know what I mean? Did what he had to do to get the numbers up.
Definitely. Did any of you guys see the town hall or watch it or read about it or anything like that?
The town hall I did not see.
Okay, what about you, GQ?
No, I didn't.
All right. Well, I didn't. I briefly, I like, you know, skimmed over it. Or I think I looked at it on YouTube or something like that. But I was just looking at the highlights, and in the highlights from the town hall, a question was asked towards President Trump of how was he going to improve the Black and Latino relationships between law enforcement and the inner city communities. And his response was, and now I don't know if they edited it this way, so don't tear me up too bad, but everybody's know he has said this in the past because he said it several times. But he was like, well, people don't like me to say this, but I've done more for the blacks than Abraham Lincoln. And I'm like, for one, I'm thinking, wow, this dude really has like,
he's bold.
He's
bold.
really bold to say that, but that has nothing to do with the question that was asked, you know, because if you really think about everything that's been going on since this pandemic in our communities and between law enforcement, it isn't good right now. So what do you think, if you were in charge, what kind of policies or what would you do to kind of improve the relationships? Or do you even see a problem between the law enforcement relationship and where they work in the community?
I mean, of course, it's an issue. How do you fix it? I mean, that's a tough situation. I mean, 'cause every individual views law enforcement differently. You know what I mean? It all depends on the neighborhood they're policing. It all depends on the culture and the people in that neighborhood and how they approach law enforcement. You know, it's a funny conversation. I had a conversation with a law enforcement officer just about 2 days ago. He was saying right now it's crazy. Like, he was saying like he's get so many threats on him and his family to where he doesn't even go out in public with his family. Like, when they go out, he stays home just because he doesn't want anybody relating them to him. So for their safety, he doesn't even go out in public anymore with his family. So I mean, all around, like, it's bad for both sides. You know what I mean? Something definitely needs to be done. It's just an unfortunate situation all the way around.
Well, I think GQ Nesto has like a interesting perspective on this because, you know, you spend a lot of time in Mexico and their dealings out there. How would you compare, or is there a comparison of what you see in Mexico versus what you see here in the States?
Yeah, honestly, I think we're very spoiled here. I feel that if you go to another country, not just Mexico, but a lot of other countries, like, you get beat and thrown in the river. As simple as that, and there's no march the next day. It's very different compare how we're dealing with things. I mean, I think right now here domestically, I think we've lost respect for our authority, and I don't think it's necessarily intentional in any way because of the events that have happened lately, but I think it's the fact that it's COVID. Everybody's locked up. Everybody, they're drinking coffee at home.
Tensions are high right now. For everybody.
So everybody's on the edge. So if we compare, the situation here versus out there, like I said, we're very spoiled. Like Mexico, you're kind of scared of them. You know what I mean? Like you're scared of them. Like.
But it's different type of fear because, like, I hear people fear the police too, but like it's like a whole other type of fear. Out here, they actually fear for their lives.
Like you can't call the department and say, "Hey, I would like to just complain about this officer or whatever." Like, there's been times where I've been just driving and I get pulled over and it's a shakedown. Honestly, like it got to the point where I literally, thank God for Apple that they have that little tracking thing. But I always do that when
share your location.
Share my location. And, I got stopped randomly and, he went straight for my passport. So at that point, you start thinking out here, you get pulled over by a CHP and you know what? You're going to go about your day and you get pulled over out there. And you might lose your freedom. You might lose your passport. You might lose like the shoes you're wearing. I mean, you don't know what could happen. You could lose your life. And I think the simple fact that, they don't have the laws that they don't follow the laws that, obviously we follow out here to some capacity. So that's why I'm saying you compare a cop out there versus a cop out here. I mean,
yeah, Americans we're just spoiled by nature here in America.
We're not doing too bad. I mean, I think there's a couple things that we kind of need to fix. But other than that, I think everybody's doing their best of their ability. So we can't knock on that.
And then another thing that had came up during the town hall meeting between President Trump and Vice President Joe Biden was the fact of Trump's use of the National Guard, right? So if you have, of course, we're on this show, we don't condone the rioting and the looting or anything like that. And we are all for the peaceful protests if that's what you really want to do. But of course, you always have your bad apples. There are opportunists who want to cause chaos. And it seems like is what is magnified, in the news media. But he said that, when you have the National Guard come in their Humvees and they got their M4s and they got 50 cows mounted on top of their Humvees, what kind of message are you sending to the people? You know what I'm saying? You're treating me like some people have thought from what I was reading in the comments that some people felt like they were being seen as or targeted as like animals. I'm out here saying like, yo, we need change, law enforcement change, policy needs to change, things need to happen. I'm not causing any harm or any threat to anyone, but you send in the National Guard. Do you think that was like the right move? Or like, what do you think about that?
I don't know if it's necessarily the right move. I think it was more of like setting the tone. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like when you're in church, and you kind of being loud. You look over at your mom. She just gives you that look, like
the shiny eye.
That shiny eye. You know what I mean? Or you acting up at the house, and they just pull out the belt and set it on the table, and you already know what time it is. I think it was more of that. Like, I don't think he was trying to threaten anybody. It's more just setting the tone. Like
say my name.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we saying because unfortunately, not all the protests have been peaceful. You know what I mean? There's been some chaos out there in the world. So I think it's just more just setting the tone, letting people know that, hey, go ahead and protest. But if you guys get out of control, we're ready. We're coming for you.
Okay, and then. In relation to that, of course, we know the unfortunate events about Breonna Taylor and how she ultimately lost her life. But her boyfriend did an interview with, I think, Miss Gayle King. And during that interview, he shared that there's a lot of inconsistencies between what we have been hearing in the media and what actually happened. One of the main things that stood out to me was he said that they weren't in the bed. They were sitting on the couch watching TV. And he said he was 1,000% sure that none of the officers who went into their place of living that night had announced themselves, right? And then you think about Mr. George Floyd, and you think, okay, well, according or allegedly, you know, that ultimately he lost his life over a counterfeit $20 bill. And then you have Breonna Taylor's family, who recently got awarded $12 million, you know, in her death. That's not going to bring her back or satisfy anyone because she's still in the ground. But the only person that they indicted is in it that was directly involved in her death. He's indirectly indicted because they pretty much charged him for letting his weapon go off and go into somebody else's house. You know, I think it's called wanton endangerment or something like that. So it's like, why is there a double standard? You know, why isn't there any accountability? It was almost as if like, okay, yeah, we're going to give you this 12 million. Y'all not satisfied? Oh, we'll give you a body. So we'll charge somebody, but it's not directly related in her death, even though he was actually involved. How does that make you feel?
It's tough because obviously we're not in the positions, we're not the families that lost somebody, so it's easy to just, you know, have an opinion about that. But aside from that, what you were talking about, you know, how certain protocols maybe are not being put in place or whatever, you know, the situation happened in those two incidents. But I feel like we're missing out on the bigger picture. We're once again, we're living in a very tough environment all across the board. So we're not taking taking in consideration that you have officers that are people too. You know, they make mistakes. You know, they're going through things. They're living COVID. You know, and vice versa. You know, I think all around, it's very unfortunate. But the only thing we could do at this point is just you know, try to see the good in it. You know, obviously all these tragedies is just an opportunity to rise. But do we really believe that? Probably not, because it's bigger than that. But I don't know. I think it's unfortunate, but you know, I think we're gonna come back stronger from this.
Smith CEO, what do you think like is our biggest disconnect? I mean, or is there a disconnect? Like, why is it like? It just seems like, in my opinion, because this is only my opinion, right? It's just there's no accountability.
I'm not attacking the media, but I would say it's definitely the media's fault. Because I mean, from the beginning, for example, the Breonna Taylor case, from the very first, breakout story we heard was she was in her room asleep in her bed. The police busted in, didn't say anything, just started shooting. They were finding out from her boyfriend in the interview that they were never even in the room. They were never even in the bed. She wasn't even asleep. They were sitting on the couch watching TV. Cops was to the door. He shoots at the cops. They start shooting back. That totally changed the whole situation. You know what I mean? So I blame the media for not putting out the correct information, not fact checking, make sure they have the facts straight before they put a story out there. Like, I feel like they almost want that divide between law enforcement and citizens. Like, it just gives them something to talk about to boost their ratings. So I mean, I would say everybody just like, before you get too involved, like, man, do your homework, fact check, like turn off the media and just do your own research. Make sure you got everything straight. Like, don't just go with the first story you hear and run with it, because there's always gonna be two sides to every story. You know what I mean? I think if people would just turn off the news for one, and I'm not attacking news stations, they got to do their job, but it's just like that would be a big part of it. Like, I feel like they almost create that divide.
It's kind of like they want to create chaos so people can't think for themselves. Yeah. You know,
they want to keep us in fear.
We have a lot of important decisions that we have to make, specifically with COVID, and by making everybody panic, be everybody in a very hostile, you know, mentality, then guess what? You know, it's easy to, you know, kind of just feed us false information and lead us to the wrong, or, you know, to a specific direction that only benefits them.
And you know what I think a big problem is you don't even know what the truth is.
Yeah, you don't know what to believe anymore.
Even if you do your own research, and we touched on it a little bit in Social Dilemma, right? So, you know, social media, I can go on Google and and search something that kind of is pro whatever my thoughts is, and of course that information is going to be out there, so it validates my opinion. It
Right. Yeah,
validates
yeah.
what- so this is what I'm running with, and it's probably not even true. And I just it's so hard to believe, and that's why we always try to relate things back to our faith and how we believe, how you treat every man equally. You know, everybody's entitled to it. That everybody has rights. You know, and if we all abide by that, and we all felt that way, then we wouldn't have to worry about the truth, because we would know that the sources that are providing the information to us is facts. You know, but right now it's just like, man, you don't know who lying,
Yeah, you
who
don't know
telling
what
the-
facts are
who
facts
paid,
anymore.
who not paid.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad, man. It's pretty sad. But ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for tuning in today. This will conclude our episode. And before we leave, like we always do, always open up to the floor to the homies. GQ Nesto, anything you would like to share with our listeners?
Just, stay positive. Stay positive. Don't let negativity suck you in. And we're going to get through this. 2021 is coming. We'll be all right. So let's just keep it pushing. God bless.
Smith, CEO.
You know me, man. I'm always going to show love to the fans. I just want to say thank you to everybody who listens, everybody who tunes in. Continue to create conversations on social media. Make sure you follow us. Continue to listen and like our content. We appreciate you guys.
And once again, this your boy Drew. Thank you for tuning in. How was your day podcast? We'll see y'all next time. Peace.